Well, here we are, the final figure in the Spider-Man Marvel Legends retro-style wave, based very loosely on the 90s animated series. Um, we have looked at three villains, Hobgoblin, Shocker, and Hammerhead, out of which, loved Hammerhead, I think Shocker might be my favourite figure of the wave so far. We've looked at two prior Spideys. We've looked at the Spider-Man Armor Mark 1, and we've looked at Ben Reilly's Spider-Man. All of these have been pretty decent overall. Hobgoblin, a few things letting him down, but it's not a bad figure. I think so far my favourites of the wave are these two, Hammerhead and Shocker. They just look fantastic. But this is a figure I have wanted for a very long time. I have never had a Marvel Legends Symbiote Spider-Man. Back when the Symbiote Spider-Man was in the first wave of Spider-Man classics by Toy Biz in the early 2000s. I think the first wave was Venom, but it was that one where he's like half uncovered. He's got like a bare leg and stuff, and his mouth's all squiddly. There was a Spider-Man, which I still have. There was a oh god, who else was in Wave 1? I can't remember. But I think the other one was Symbiote Spider. Oh, Daredevil! I never got that Daredevil figure, but there was a Symbiote Spider-Man. I never got him. I very briefly had one from the later Toy Biz Spider-Man Classics, even though they weren't Spider-Man Classics wave. I picked him up in Universal Studios in Florida in 2010. He was painfully proportioned. His sculpt was weird, and it meant that his articulation was awful. I had him for about 4 months, and then I sold him. I've been waiting for a Symbiote Spider-Man ever since. The Classics wave has answered my tiny, tiny prayers by presenting us with a Spider-Man that, yes, it's themed on the animated series, but it's not. That's the comic book design. That is the Todd McFarlane design. The sculpt is the same as the Spider-Man and Ben Reilly Spider-Man and Webman that this series has already produced. The bio reads as such. Spider-Man gets an all-new look when he finds a sleek black costume in a space shuttle wreck. Animated series origin. Little does Spidey realise he's joined himself to the predatory alien symbiote Venom. Not entirely correct, but yes, same symbiote. Will become Venom. His action features include changing his bloody hands, as one would expect. The packaging, as always, for this wave is pretty gorgeous. It's very retro. It stands out. It really sticks out in the store. I saw this Spider-Man and the Hammerhead Spider-Man in the wild in a Smith's Toys a couple weeks ago, and these boxes really pop. This Spider-Man, of course, though, doesn't, because he just blends into the box because he's all dark. Could he have done with some blue highlights, like the Venom figure they did on a limited release? Maybe. Either way, I'm really excited to open him. So why am I prattling on? Let's take a look at the Symbiote Black Suit Spider-Man. Symbiote Yoga. Symbioga. Let's take a quick look at the articulation. It is, if you're familiar with these figures, exactly the same as the Ben Reilly and Standard Suit Spider-Man and Webman. Ankle goes back and forward and pivots. Fairly, posable. Not too loose, but, loose enough on this one. Calf joint. We need to retire this calf joint. Hasbro, please, for the love of God, just add an ankle joint, down here or something, because this just... look at that. That's ugly as sin. Because he's black costume all over from a distance, you won't really notice it. It's when you get close you'll notice it on this guy. Double knee joint. He's got thigh joint. He's got mega thighs like the Spideys in this wave do, and a fairly decent range of motion around the crotch. He crunches at the waist/hips. He has a slightly stiffer than the other figures, but sort of double ball peg mounted hip rib articulation, which allows for sort of movement side to side, up and down, back and forth. He has the patented Spidey bonus movement for the shoulder to bring his arms forward and back. The shoulder articulation itself goes up and down, in and out. He has a swivel at the top of the upper arm. Double elbow joint, which is a little... No, it doesn't really allow for his arm to be fully brought up, but sure, what have you. And he has articulation in the wrist, as is on the hand itself. His neck is the same as the previous two, in that it's the peg with the double ball joint with this little bracket toward the back, just to allow him to flex his head up a little more if you want him, say, standing upside down on a web or crawling forwards or what have you, which allows for a decent range of movement, but isn't that much different from it just being a simple ball joint, really. But whatevs. Let's take a look at his details. As you can see, there's lots of detail. There isn't, and that's kind of the point. The suit is a washed out black. It's got a slightly shiny texture to it, so it looks like the symbiote is indeed alive. It's alive! Yes! The spider on it is the classic sort of McFarlane 90s, 80s black suit Spider-Man look. It follows through all the way around, under his arms, onto his back. It's a little upset by the shoulder articulation, but that's to be expected. He's got a slight spine, nubbles of the spine along his back too. The hands have the white patch on the back, as the symbiote suit totally should. Whenever it doesn't, it always annoys me. And the lenses are sculpted. It's a slight sculpt in the face, meaning there's risk of paint bleed, but mine appears to have avoided any major bleed other than just like that slight ledging there, but that just shows you that it is indeed a raised section. No hole in his back for posability's sake. So if you're going to have him on a display stand with him up and about doing stuff, you're just going to have to, you know, use a display stand without a peg for the back. He comes with a couple of accessories, namely 2 pairs of hands. He comes with crawling hands, which with the symbiote costume you could also have him creeping. Do the creep. Do the creep. Yes. And you also have him with web hands, which is redundant, because in the black costume, and even in the animated series, he doesn't shoot web out of his hands in this costume. It's nice to have them, but he shoots web out through the white colouring on his wrist out the back of his hand. As such, what might have been nice as an additional accessory for this was a pair of, or at least one fisticuff with the with like a web line coming out of it, or maybe even some black gooey web line accessories. That being said, he does look very, very dynamic as is. Let's see what he looks like in action. Do you know what? Looking really good. It's a simple costume. Like you're never going to make a figure of the symbiote suit that looks anything other than just simple. And I think as far as like nailing the look of it, like the style, like look at that. It looks like he's crawling up a building all creepy like. It's pretty damn solid. I was very much looking forward to this figure. And I'm not disappointed. For my first proper Marvel Legends symbiote Spidey, I think this is a great option. Would you go for this one too? Do you like it as well? Let me know in the comments down below. You can support this series as well. Like if you like my toy reviews, you by going to the PayPal link in the description, donating to Orb with a note, or you can go to my Amazon wishlist, which is linked below in the description, and buy a toy directly that you want me to review. No obligation to do either of those things, of course. You could just support me by liking, commenting below, subscribing, turning on the notification bell, spreading the word if you think others would find these toy reviews useful, which is ultimately why I do them. If you're wondering what my opinion on the wave as a whole is, I think the standout for me is Shocker. It's such a great, great figure, and I'm delighted with him. He's my recommend. If you have to pick up one from the wave, my recommend is the Shocker. But if you want to pick up both of these guys, then you can recreate the "I'll follow you to the end of the earth" from the animated series. What was your favourite figure in the wave? Let me know, and I'll see you again super soon. Wow.